Rekla, and with me is our beloved implementer and also Tony Allen, the owner of Allen Games, and I'm really glad to have you here with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
All right, I'm very glad to. And we will get right into the questions here. I don't have that many for you tonight, but I think that they will be interesting without being controversial, which is what everybody seems to want. But the first one that I want to shoot at you is the first and most obvious question I want to ask you is, have you been following this season? I do get the impression that you're a really busy person and you have a professional and family life as well as DSL. And I also know that you love competition and passion. So have you been there watching the live matches or listening to the broadcast for season 6?
I have listened to every match I could and watched every one I was home for. I follow it very close. I'm the one who has to update the website and all that stuff for it, and I love the league. So yeah, I watch it quite a bit. And if I don't, I recap and try to watch all the replays I can find.
All right, that's awesome. It's awesome to know. And my next question is a follow up, and I want you to be honest, which is, do you have a favorite team or a favorite player over the past 6 seasons? And if so, why do you like that team or player the best?
I do not have a favorite team. I created this league, and my big thing for it is I love parity. I want hopefully a different team winning it every year. If the same team goes on a run, they deserve it, and that's great. Have no problem with it. But I like to see different teams doing better. I like the way we do our draft system set up that way, so hopefully people can turn their teams around. So I don't have a particular favorite one. I played for two different teams back when we needed the players, and then it caught on, and thank God I don't have to make any team suffer like that anymore.
That's actually a bit of a spoiler. I didn't know that you played for two teams, so you're coming out tonight.
Well, I'm not saying who or, but yes, I played one season on two separate teams with two different characters, and I rarely got to play, which was a very smart move on their part.
You know, I'm actually going to have a bit of a non sequitur here, but I know that I personally have been curious over the years. Do you play in terms of DSL mechanics often? Like, you said you played for two different teams. So have you played the game and clanned in the past 20 years?
I have played and clanned every year of the past 20 years.
That is awesome to hear. Okay, so we will go to question number 3, but here we go. I know this is owner regulated and that the commissioner is out of the picture partially on this, but based on the draft results the past year and that we had 38 signups, which is competitive with even the earliest seasons, do you personally think that it's time for ACFL to become an 8-team league next season or even a 7-team league? Do you think we should expand?
Short answer is yes. Every year I pitch it to the owners. Every year I push it. I want it to happen every year, and this is the main reason why. When I created this league, I was thinking of the owners first and foremost as just having something special, something fun to control, and I hate to just limit it to the same people all the time. Anytime we have the numbers to expand, I definitely think the owners should. Now, I think most times owners are a little bit more reluctant because they're afraid of having a very shallow team,
Yeah.
shallow number. Something happens in the middle of the season, they can't make it anymore, whether it's job related or whatever.
Yeah.
So I understand the caution every year, but I push it because I want to share the fun.
I think that I agree with you on that, and I know that Dan and I certainly want to expand. I did ask this question on the owners podcast, and it was about half and half from what I understand. I know that a couple of owners had reservations about taking picks and such, but Dan did make a really great point that it's always going to be a little bit up in the air as to whether your players can play for you. So, his point was that we're always going to have shortages. There's always going to be life decisions and such, but we still have 38 people signing up for this thing. So, I mean, that's at the beginning of the season, that was like 15 to 16 people undrafted. So, yeah, let's go with it.
I definitely agree with that. I do say there's been once or twice when the owners voted it down where I thought they were a lot more wise than I was based on the numbers. But I feel like it's my job as the commissioner I have to put the option out there and encourage it every year.
All right. And question number 4. And I actually really wanted to ask you this because I'm so curious to know your response. And question number 4 is: you were responsible for creating not only DSL alone, but ACFL, which is a very specific and passionate sector of the game. People in this league have been known to reschedule their personal and even professional lives to make the matches. Grushk has said he actually worked less days last season to make the match, and Kid has said he logged into free Wi-Fi in a parking lot to play on his laptop during the post-finals chat of last year. Is it surreal for you, as the creator of something, to see people so impassioned about the league, even at the detriment of their own personal lives?
I don't know if it's surreal because I've certainly sacrificed a lot of stuff over the years myself for the game, and
Yeah.
even to make the league or run a match whenever I couldn't get anybody else to do it. But it's definitely flattering, and I think as a game designer, the number one thing you could ever hope for, or ever, and you rarely see it in certain aspects, especially competitive things,
Yeah.
is people actually appreciating it. And if you hear stories like that, it's a good feeling, and it kind of invigorates me to get another season going soon.
That is the perfect response, and I definitely agree with you about that season.
Let's
All right.
start on Tuesday.
All right, we'll start on Tuesday then. Let's try to get through the finals. I'm still concerned. But question number
Oh,
5.
these finals! By the way, congratulations.
I certainly appreciate it, man. I mean, it's been kind of a strange ride, to be honest with you.
I think I sent you a message the night y'all made it. First time the Hydra have ever made the finals.
It
Only
is.
team who hasn't.
It is. Yeah, we took our time. We took our time, but I'm happy to actually be up there for once. I mean, whatever happens come the finals, like I at least know that we broke a couple of records, so I'm okay with that.
Well, you've done a good job as an owner. I know that the previous owner kind of had a commitment issue, and
Yeah.
he had real life things take over, and so you've been wonderful for that team for sure.
All right. I really do appreciate that, man. I mean, it means a lot coming from you. Now, question number 6. Woojin and Shukinja came out this year, and Shukinja has had a surprisingly impactful experience in the ACFL, while Woojin has not so much. And yet, the Woojin class seems designated to have great utility for something like ACFL, with Gust Blind and Stun, Drowning, Disarms, and good spread damage, like Suffocate. Did you guys think about ACFL while designing these classes as a conclave alternative, or were you just focused on the class design for the most part?
I was mostly focused on the class design, and I think I heard in one of your previous streams that I think it was you that said it would be hard to imagine making those classes without thinking about the ACFL in mind.
Right.
And you're right. There are definitely some skills in there that came into play that think, man, that would change, or at least make some of these matches a little bit more dynamic and interesting.
Right.
The problem when you add classes, especially so many classes, especially right before an ACFL season, is you just don't know what we're going to get. And anytime you change anything, you're introducing about a dozen bugs, which is one reason Brewmaster just have not made it in until this season's over. That's what I've been waiting on. I'm not going to introduce a bunch of new bugs. I knew that players would reclass to it if they found something. And I'd hate to have one of those matches where, well, we got to redo something because this skill obviously just doesn't work, or it breaks the whole game, or,
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well,
But yeah, of course, we think about the competitive things. I try to anyway. But mostly, something unique, class design is a completely different topic. And Woojin and Conclave is a whole different thought. My original thought on that was they're not part of the school of philosophy, which is what the Conclave is supposed to be.
Right.
But the more I look at it as a major reclass, the more I'm kind of reconsidering that. I might actually let them in the Conclave, but that's something I'm going to continue to think about.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. I know that the argument has been that, okay, why not give Woojin access to the Conclave, because what mages need in the Conclave is a stun top. But, as a player killer, I mean, from my understanding of Drown, and I did play Woojin for a few months, it seems to stack well with other stuns. So I think that Conclave would still need to make alliances with other teams, even if they hate those barbarians,
And there's other things to consider for that too. I mean, Conclave used to dominate, or at least for one season, Clan Wars because of their damage bonus and things. And
Right.
I did lower that, and I tried to do it in a very minor way to see where we were at. So it's going to take some thought and probably some trial runs before I really, and ultimately the role play. And by the way, I disagree. Let me get back to role play in a minute.
Sure.
That's going to be a major part of it. If does it make sense? Am I going against everything I've made
Yeah.
Conclave to be? If it does, I just won't do it. But speaking of role play, you made a comment the other day. I'm gonna ask you a question real fast
Uh
about
oh.
ultimately this is a competitive thing. You have to
Sure.
go out of character thoughts and relationships and all that to make it work, as you do with any part of any game, especially one that gets competitive.
Yeah.
But I gotta disagree. I think that we're not gonna do anything that supersedes role play just because it's easier or just because it
Of course. I mean,
seems like it might even be designed that way.
I don't expect the M's to do that in any way, shape, or form. But I mean, Tony, you have to admit that Clan Wars, the super competitive people, they're messaging each other and compiling ways to win the season. I mean, I know that sometimes it doesn't work. Like we did that versus Conclave that year, as you said, and they won on us. I mean, we were as competitive gets. I played for Bloodlust that season. We met them in finals, and then they just beat us. So, I could be wrong in that respect, but I do think that it requires a little bit of pre-game planning to win the things like Sea Wars and I do think that Jason made a good point about the draft earlier, which is that you did a great job in implementing that in order to get as little of that as possible.
I know that comes into it, and it is expected.
Yeah.
It's just not going to take the place of role play,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean by that.
Yeah, I do, and yeah, I love role playing. It's been one of my favorite things over the past couple of decades. We've played this game quite a long time.
I think you're not going to hear from me, or you shouldn't hear from any of them that says, "Oh, it's fine to do that stuff." But of
No, of
course, we
course
know what
not.
goes
Of course
on,
not.
and I've been a part of it. I haven't been in Clan Wars in a long time. I think my last Clan Wars character was actually in Valor, but
Valor, huh?
yeah.
With Game-O and those cats.
Oh man, I don't even remember. I remember we had a really good first year and a really bad second year, and I don't think we ever really did well again.
I'm just surprised to hear that Valor had a good year at some point.
It was the very first year, yeah. I had some mage, and that's back when sleep and all that worked pretty well, and I think we finished second.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd have played for Valor. I mean, it was pretty fun. It was like the old Justice, but there was some interest to it. I mean, at that time, I believe I was playing Armada, and then I switched over to Pirates because I'm a trader. But if
Yeah, we
you're
finished second for the season, and we lost in the first round, I think, to Warguard. But
okay,
man, that
wow.
was
So
long.
we had a couple of the underdog teams winning out that season.
Well, it's all new back then. I don't think anybody was underdog quite yet.
Oh, okay, of course.
I think Valor did rebound, I think year 4 or 5, but then I got rid of them anyway. So
Yeah, you got rid of them. Did Valor ever win a season?
no,
Okay, all
never.
right, poor guys. Well, they
There's a lot of
came.
clans that haven't. Shalinesti hasn't won a season yet. I mean, active clans. That might be the only one. Shadow has not. They went undefeated one year and then lost
Yeah,
in the playoff.
I co-captained that season, and then we lost terribly. I remember it specifically because we have actually been the only clan in 20 years of history to have an undefeated regular season, and then we lost unceremoniously to Bloodlust that year.
You had the New England Patriots year of clan wars.
We did. Um, but all right, question number 7 is: can you tell me what timeline you project Magma Cup being in? Will it come shortly after this season, or are we going to have a couple months leeway?
Well, I like to take 2 years between seasons, so I can't. I don't know if I want Magma before Clan Wars or if I want Clan Wars before Magma, but I do know it's going to be immediately afterwards.
Okay. All right,
One or the other,
all right.
and either one of those is going to start or at least be scheduled right after the con this year. So at the end of the month, we'll know.
All right, that sounds very good to me. And I do want to get at least one fielded question from the forums. So Answer this however you want, but how do you feel about the team owners? As I know that other teams have made comments about how certain owners were not doing their job, and that one is from Charlie Liu, who plays Azri.
How do I feel about team owners?
Yeah, how do you feel about the 6 owners, more or less?
I have different opinions about each owner. I think that's the fairest way I can probably say it.
Okay.
I don't dislike any of them. I mean, there's only two original owners left from the original season, and that's I tell you, I'm the first person who can't pronounce anybody's name.
Sure.
So, Flyke and Grush, I think they're the only owners left from the original season, unless I'm mistaken.
No, I think that's accurate.
But no, if I didn't like them, and when I hit that switch of this person's bad for the league, or I can't physically log in if they're around, then I'm just not gonna let them play DSL or be an owner. So no, I have no outstanding issues with anybody right now. When I do, they know pretty quick, and then we move on, as you know from the owners forums.
I do. I mean, the first thing that I did when I got access that year is I just went through all of the threads, and the one that I ironically missed is the one that I got the most controversy for, which I'm sure you're aware of. But
now don't worry about that, because I don't remember seeing it either. I mean, if they go off and try to make rules when we're not having an owners meeting, I'm not reading it.
Right. I mean, it was my
fault. There's a reason it all needs to be in the same place.
Right. It was my fault for not going through that. I'm not sure that I would have done anything different, but I mean, what I did was a couple of months in, I just got the idea, and I hadn't seen anything even remotely close to discussing that, and then of course it came back to bite me. So the only thing that taught me is that I need to do the old college research. But
for people who don't know what you're talking about, it's the fact that you drafted somebody and they were like a base class, knowing what class they were going to be, but the other owners did not know. So they didn't really have the option of maybe considering that person. At least they had the option, but they would be doing a lot of guesswork. Is that what you're talking about?
That is 100% what I'm talking about, and it was somewhat controversial.
And it's going to be different next year. And I try to put everything I can to a vote, but ultimately the main reason I'm there is to keep things, in my opinion, as fair as they can possibly be.
Sure.
That is something I don't feel is very fair. So that's going to be a rule next year. I don't know that we'll have a vote on it. Occasionally I do, do the Obama and just do whatever.
You're going to veto?
Bush did it too. Yeah, well, not veto, just, here's a new, I forget the directive or whatever.
Here's what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay. I agree with that, to be honest with you. I mean, my plan going into it was that it would only be doable for 1 year, but I tend to go with Dakios' side of things, which is that, even in the early days, Christian and Flyke gamed the system a bit. So I thought that, going into it, I was a little surprised on the reaction, because I thought that it was an interesting way to draft, and keep in mind, this is not seeing the previous thread about it. I thought that it was going to be surprise to owners, but that they would go, "Hey, this is kind of fun what he did," but the reaction was actually worse than that, and then I was like, "Oh no," it just came out bad.
Other thoughts on that is one, I don't know if I'm jaded or what. I'm a sports official, right? I
do.
Referee football professionally and in college and some high school.
Right.
And I know how competitive people are, and I deal with some humongous egos and personalities. Some of these coaches people see on TV, and they're a handful, but I'm the one who has to make things fair.
Of course.
That's one reason when I have an issue, I tackle it immediately, directly. This is how it is. If you don't like it, you can whine about it or try to talk me out of it eventually. But for now, we're going with this. A decision has to be made. Those kind of things I do, especially right after matches when there's some controversy.
Mm-hmm.
And I do this is what I can live with. This is what I think is fair. But the rules kind of thing, I just think it's makes a lot more fairness for the league, especially for the losing teams that need a little help in their drafts to kind of even the playing field a little bit. So that rule is probably going to be you can't if you're new to the league, you cannot reclass for your first season.
Yeah. So we're talking the first season basically, and
after that, whatever. If you own that person, they want to retrain, reclass, then more power to them.
Yeah, I agree with that rule, and I would have voted yes in favor for it. I'm pretty sure that the owners would have as well. Um,
It wasn't illegal though. I mean, it was not written down, and that's the other thing. It's not in writing. It's not illegal. You shouldn't be getting any grief
yeah, I
because of
mean,
an obscure thread that wasn't even official. I I think I told everybody in the owners forum. I know nobody thinks you're gaming everybody and all that stuff so
right.
much. I mean, to the point where you're being evil about it. But I do think that it needs to be a rule, but it wasn't. So for this year, it's good.
I mean, I'm a human shadow knot, man. What do they expect, right?
In real life.
In real life, yeah. Just gotta cast that dark immunity. But I have nothing else for you. I certainly appreciate this interview with you, and it's actually been fantastic to hear you talk about this. And I've been elated with the answers, especially that you have followed ACFL and that you love the game as much as we do.
I definitely follow it. I look at every result. I watch everything I can, and if people don't hear from me about that, is because I need to keep my opinions to myself sometimes. But no, no favorites. I'm proud of.
I think we all know that Hodder is your favorite. I'm just gonna go ahead and state it for you.
You got me on the hot seat in the live interview, so right now they're my favorite. Until you hang up.
That's well, I mean, why else would I stream? You know, other than to get the favoritism stated right here and now.
While I'm on here, let me say congratulations to Card Sharks too. They've done an amazing job, and Dan as an owner, man, he puts a lot of effort into it.
You know, I'm really elated that besides just being one of the best teams the past couple of seasons, like I'm elated for Dan personally because he's such a good person.
He is, and he's played the game since he was a teenager. I remember him and his friend Dave coming to a con, and now he's married with kids and
Yeah, Nikolai, right?
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a part of the Kayan bloodline, so I remember.
We'll probably be seeing him in a few weeks in Colorado too. So.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, he lives there, right? He just
Yep.
lives in the state.
Yep. He lives in Denver, I believe.
Okay. Well, if he's not too high, he should make it.
He will if he is. I think.
But I really do appreciate you being on, Tony, and thanks for coming in with me.
Anytime. Let's do it again.
Absolutely. All right. Have a great night.
All right. Bye.
All right, bye.